Jake was a familiar sight in the small, sun-kissed town where he lived. With a weathered cowboy hat perched atop his head and boots caked in dirt, he embodied the spirit of a true rancher. For as long as anyone could remember, he had dedicated his life to the family ranch, which had been passed down through generations. The sprawling land was dotted with rolling hills and open pastures where cattle grazed peacefully under the vast blue sky. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. Each morning, Jake would rise with the sun. He loved the stillness of dawn before the world awoke. It was during these quiet moments that he could hear the sounds of nature come to life. The gentle rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and the soft lowing of cows. These were the moments that made all his hard work worthwhile. He believed in honest labor and took pride in caring for his animals as if they were part of his family. Days on the ranch were not easy. They demanded strength and resilience. Jake had learned this from a young age when he helped his father with chores, feeding animals, and mending fences. Now in his 30s, he carried on those traditions, but also faced modern challenges. Droughts that threatened crops and market fluctuations that made every sale feel like a gamble. Despite these hardships, Jake remained optimistic. He found joy in tending to his horses, each one unique with its own personality. Among those horses was Bella, a gentle mare who had been by Jake's side for years. Bella was not just a companion, she was a trusted partner in managing the ranch's daily tasks. Together, they rounded up cattle and explored the surrounding trails that crisscrossed through fields and forests. It was during these rides that Jake felt most connected to his life's purpose, being one with nature and living off the land. Jake often thought about how much he loved this life, even when it wasn't easy. He cherished every moment spent under the sun or working late into the evening as stars began to twinkle overhead. However, deep inside him lingered a desire for adventure beyond his everyday routine, a longing for something unexpected that might shake up his predictable existence. One bright afternoon, while checking on a distant section of land, Jake noticed something unusual, a flicker of movement against the rugged backdrop of rocks and brush. Curiosity piqued. He guided Bella closer to investigate what caught his eye. As they approached cautiously, Jake's heart raced at what he saw, a wild stallion struggling for survival near collapse. The sight stopped him in his tracks. There was something majestic yet heartbreaking about this creature fighting to stay upright amidst its pain. The stallion's coat shimmered under the sun despite its frail condition. It looked noble even in its suffering. In that moment, Jake felt an overwhelming urge to help, a feeling so strong it overshadowed his usual cautious nature. He slowly dismounted Bella and approached carefully, aware that this wild animal could be frightened or aggressive. But as Jake looked into those deep eyes, filled with both fear and defiance, he knew this encounter would lead him down an unexpected path, one that would change everything about his life on the ranch and give him new purpose beyond just raising cattle. With determination swelling within him, Jake took a deep breath and stepped forward into this new chapter waiting to unfold before him. Little did he know that rescuing this stallion would set off a chain reaction of events that would transform not only himself, but also shape the future of everything he held dear on the ranch. Jake had always taken pride in knowing every inch of his ranch, from the lush green pastures to the rocky outcrops that dotted the landscape. On this particular day, he decided to venture further than usual during his routine check. Bella trotted beside him, her hooves crunching softly on the gravel path. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the land. But Jake sensed that something was off. A strange stillness filled the air. As they passed the familiar grazing fields where his cattle lounged lazily, Jake felt a tug of curiosity pulling him toward a more rugged area at the edge of his property. This part of the ranch was less explored, often avoided due to its rocky terrain and thorny bushes. However, an unusual flicker of movement caught his eye amidst the shadows of jagged rocks. He slowed Bella's pace as they approached, instinctively sensing that whatever lay ahead was important. When they crested a small hill, Jake's heart sank at the sight before him. There, struggling to stay upright near a cluster of boulders, was a wild stallion. It was a magnificent creature with a striking coat that shone like polished silver under the sunlight. But it was clear that it was in dire trouble. The stallion swayed unsteadily on its legs, its breath coming in ragged gasps. Jake could see its ribs sharply outlined against its skin, indicating that it hadn't eaten in days. A mixture of awe and concern rushed over him as he observed the stallion's condition. Its once proud stance had been replaced by weariness. It looked both majestic and heartbreaking. Jake's instinct told him this animal had faced challenges almost as tough as his own. The harsh conditions of the wild were unforgiving. Droughts had led to scarce food and water sources, pushing even strong creatures to their limits. Bella shifted nervously beside him, sensing her rider's apprehension. "Easy, girl," Jake whispered soothingly to her while keeping his gaze fixed on the stallion. He wondered how long it had been alone and what had brought it to this point of collapse. The thought of such a noble creature's suffering stirred something deep within him. Jake knew he had to act quickly, but also cautiously. This was a wild animal, after all. He dismounted from Bella and stepped carefully toward the stallion, mindful not to startle it further. Each step felt heavy with responsibility. The horse's eyes locked onto Jake's with a blend of fear and defiance. A gaze that seemed to plead for help, yet warned him about getting too close. The rocky ground crunched beneath Jake's boots as he took another careful step forward. "I'm here to help," he murmured, hoping his calm voice would ease some of the tension between them. He reached into his saddlebag for some apples he usually carried for Bella. Food might be the key to gaining trust. As he extended his hand with an apple toward the stallion, time seemed to stand still. The wild horse hesitated, muscles trembling under its weight. Jake's heart raced. He could feel the weight of this moment pressing down on him. Would it accept his offer? Would it trust him? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the stallion took a tentative step closer and sniffed at the apple with curiosity mixed with caution. In that small act, a decision made by an animal who had fought so hard for survival. Jake realized this encounter was about more than just rescuing a horse. It was about forging an unexpected connection that would change both their lives forever. With newfound determination lighting up his spirit, Jake stood ready to help this beautiful stallion rise again, unaware of how profoundly this moment would reshape not only his world, but also everything he thought he knew about himself and his ranch life. As Jake stood there, heart pounding and eyes locked on the wild stallion, a whirlwind of emotions washed over him. Surprise gripped him first. He could hardly believe that he had come across such a majestic creature in such a vulnerable state. The stallion's worn body contrasted sharply with the vibrant environment surrounding them, a haunting reminder of nature's often harsh realities. Then came the concern, heavy as the humid air around him. Jake shifted his stance, aware that the stallion's desperate situation could end badly if he didn't act quickly. He felt a tight knot form in his stomach as he took stock of the stallion's condition. Its ribs protruded sharply beneath its coat, and its breath came in shallow gasps. This animal was clearly suffering, possibly days away from a dire outcome if left alone. A surge of urgency pushed at Jake's feet, but he hesitated. He was no stranger to the ways of horses and other animals on his ranch, and he knew they could be unpredictable, especially when in distress. The stallion's wild spirit flickered in its eyes, giving Jake pause. Should he intervene or respect the creature's independence? That inner conflict echoed within him as he weighed his options. "Help it," a small voice inside him whispered. As a rancher, he understood the intrinsic value of life. It wasn't just about raising cattle and horses. It was about stewardship over all living things that shared the land. Yet another part of him cautioned against approaching too quickly. What if the wild stallion panicked and lashed out? He'd faced many tough decisions before, but this felt different. It tugged at a part of him that yearned for connection and purpose. "You have to help," he murmured under his breath, glancing back at Bella, who stood patiently beside him. The mare seemed to sense his turmoil, ears flicking back and forth as she watched the stallion with both curiosity and concern. In that moment, Jake found an ally in Bella. She would help guide him through this encounter. He took a deep breath to steady himself, forgetting for a second about the weight pressing down on his chest. He took a small step forward, and then another, reassuring himself each time that he had to try. He remembered how caring for his own animals brought joy to his life, how forming connections with them had taught him invaluable lessons about trust and loyalty. Jake reached into his saddlebag with trembling hands for the apples he had brought along for Bella. If food could entice Bella, a domesticated horse, perhaps it could entice this wild creature as well. As he pulled out one of the apples and quietly called to the stallion, doubt began to creep in again. Would this stallion risk moving closer for something so simple? Would it trust a human? Although uncertainty hung heavy in the air, like clouds before a storm, something else flickered within him, a glimmer of hope ignited by compassion. As Jake moved cautiously toward the stallion, offering the fruit while speaking softly in what he hoped were soothing tones, he couldn't shake an overwhelming feeling that this moment was pivotal. It wasn't just about making a decision to help. It was about embracing an unexpected journey that lay ahead. With each slow step closer to the stallion, Jake realized that he wasn't just reaching out for a horse in need. He was reaching toward a chance for change in both their lives. With the apple clutched tightly in his hand, Jake took a deep breath and centered himself. He reminded himself to move slowly and calmly. The last thing he wanted was to startle the wild stallion even more. He could sense it needed a gentle approach, not a sudden movement that could cause panic. As he stepped forward, the rocky ground crunched beneath his boots, each sound amplifying his anxiety. Jake focused on the stallion's eyes, trying to read its emotions. Those wild eyes reflected both fear and an underlying strength, and he sensed a flicker of hope hidden within. "You're okay," he spoke softly, feeling silly for talking to an animal that could not understand him. Yet it felt right. He wanted to convey reassurance. Jake carefully placed one foot in front of the other, moving closer while maintaining a respectful distance. He recalled techniques he had learned over the years about building trust with animals. It was all about patience and allowing them to come to you on their own terms. The stallion's breathing was still shallow, but it hadn't moved away. Perhaps a sign that it sensed Jake's intentions were pure. Each step felt monumental as Jake watched for any sign of aggression or fear from the stallion. Would it bolt or charge at him? Would it see him as a threat? His heart raced with uncertainty. He understood that wild animals often reacted on instinct, but he also believed that even the most frightened creatures could find comfort in kindness if given time. After what felt like an eternity of careful movement, Jake finally reached a spot where he felt he was close enough to the stallion without overwhelming it. He crouched down slowly and extended the apple towards the creature, palm open to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he repeated softly, hoping his voice would soothe the wild spirit before him. The stallion's nostrils flared as it caught the sweet scent of the apple. Jake noticed its muscles tense slightly. It was wary yet curious. He held his breath, praying that this creature would choose to trust him just for this moment. Time seemed to stand still as they shared this delicate interaction. Him on one knee in the dirt, and the stallion standing proud yet weary before him. Just then, something unexpected happened. The stallion took a cautious step forward, inching closer until it was almost within reach of Jake's hand. The tension in Jake's body began to ease ever so slightly. There was a chance. He remained perfectly still, resisting the urge to move any closer until he knew it was ready. The stallion sniffed at the apple hesitantly before gently nudging it with its muzzle. In that split second, a rush of triumph surged through Jake. This moment of connection felt monumental. He had crossed a barrier between wildness and trust. With every ounce of care in his being, he encouraged the stallion to take the fruit from his hand. As the wild horse finally accepted the offering, Jake felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. A mix of relief and joy washed over him. This small act was more than just feeding an animal. It felt like a bridge being built between two worlds, the world of rancher and wild nature colliding beautifully. With each bite the stallion took from the apple, Jake knew he had entered into an unspoken agreement, a pact born out of compassion and understanding. This was just the beginning of their journey together. But for now, this fragile moment of connection sparked hope in both their hearts. Unbeknownst to Jake, this encounter would forge a bond that would change everything about how he saw himself and his life on the ranch forever. Over the next several days, Jake dedicated himself to building trust with the wild stallion. Each morning, he returned to the rocky area where they first met, armed with apples and a heart full of hope. The sun shone brightly overhead as he approached the spot, his routine, becoming a grounding part of his day. Jake always made sure to keep his distance at first, understanding that this was essential for the stallion's comfort. He'd arrive quietly, taking time to observe how the horse reacted to his presence. To Jake's relief, it seemed the stallion was becoming more accustomed to him being around. In those early moments of their interactions, Jake often found himself just sitting on a nearby rock or standing still, allowing the wild horse to feel secure and control its own space. At first, the stallion would peek out from behind boulders or brush, its eyes wide with curiosity, yet still wary of this human who had offered food. Jake would maintain an open posture, keeping his body relaxed and free of sudden movements that could scare it away. He whispered gentle words into the air, things like, "You're safe here," or "I'm not going to hurt you," even though he knew it couldn't fully comprehend them. Gradually, Jake began leaving small piles of apples scattered along a smooth path, leading closer to where he usually sat. Each day when he returned, he would check to see if they were gone, hoping that at least one apple had been eaten during his absence. The thrill of finding empty spots where the apples had once rested filled him with joy. It meant the stallion took timid steps forward each time. One afternoon, after several days of this routine, something remarkable happened. As Jake sat down beside a sizable rock and gently placed an apple on the ground in front of him, he noticed a shift in the stallion's behavior. Instead of hiding completely behind a boulder, It ventured slightly closer this time, sniffing cautiously at the air and stealing glances between short bursts of courage. Jake held his breath as hope sparked anew within him. He remained still and calm as each moment felt significant. Here was wildlife learning that perhaps humans weren't as threatening as they seemed. As he focused on building this connection, every slight movement from the stallion became monumental in his eyes. Days turned into weeks as patience became an essential part of their relationship. The stallion began approaching within just a few feet during feeding times while still keeping one eye ready for flight should something startle it. Sometimes Jake would hum softly, a familiar tune that warmed his heart. As he watched its cautious steps move closer toward him. On particularly sunny afternoons, filled with warmth and gentle breezes rustling through leaves, Jake could feel strong connections forming between them, without words spoken at all. They existed within shared moments under wide-open skies. With every piece of fruit shared between them came nurtured trust, a dance evolving into friendship. Then came one magical morning when Jake arrived at their meeting spot, only to discover something wonderful. No apples were left untouched. Instead, scattered remnants revealed that not only had the stallion eaten them, but had also lingered nearby long enough for Jake's scent to settle in its mind. In that radiant moment, soaked in sunshine, Jake understood and felt unbelievably grateful. That trust had begun blossoming into something deeper than either creature could have expected. They were crossing barriers together beyond mere survival. They were weaving paths toward friendship forged by patience and compassion amidst nature's grand tapestry. As days passed further along, their journey together unfolded beautifully. Each visit filled with anticipation, knowing not just one shared apple, but two. The transformation remained undeniable. Jake was earning not only trust from this wild heart, but also discovering more compassion for himself through this powerful bond being formed alongside timeless beauty, surrounding them both on the ranch they called home. As the days passed and trust blossomed between Jake and the wild stallion, he realized that building their bond was just the beginning. The stallion's thin frame and injuries demanded attention. It was clear to Jake that proper care was essential for its recovery. Determined to help, he began formulating a plan to tend to its wounds and improve its overall health. Jake remembered advice from the veterinarian who had visited his ranch in the past. He recalled discussing how critical nutrition was for healing and the importance of addressing any injuries properly. The first step was to gain a closer look at the stallion's condition without frightening it. With patience, Jake slowly moved closer each day, offering food and gaining the horse's trust further until they were almost side by side. One sunny afternoon, after sharing apples, Jake noticed a small cut on the stallion's leg, likely caused by sharp rocks in its environment. It was tender and swollen, a clear sign that infection could follow if left untreated. Taking a deep breath, he knew he had to act. He could not let this magnificent creature suffer more than it already had. Jake fetched some supplies from his barn, a clean cloth, antiseptic ointment, and a bandage. He returned with Bella by his side, her calm demeanor helping him remain steady. When they reached their meeting place, he sat quietly so as not to alarm the stallion. After a few moments, the wild horse curiously approached them, still cautious but willing to trust Jake's intentions. With gentle hands, Jake began speaking softly to the stallion, reassuring it while trying to inspect its leg. "I'm here to help you," he whispered as he knelt down and reached toward the injured area. The stallion tensed at first, but did not pull away completely. Its eyes reflected uncertainty, but also an understanding that Jake meant no harm. He cleaned the wound carefully, applying antiseptic with a steady hand, while murmuring words of encouragement. "You're going to feel better soon," he said softly as he worked methodically. It wasn't easy to keep his focus when every instinct told him that one sudden movement could scare the horse away. Yet determinedly, he finished dressing the wound and fastened a bandage around its leg. The stallion shifted uncomfortably for a moment, but then relaxed as it sensed Jake's steady presence nearby. This small victory felt monumental for both of them, the wild heart allowing itself to be cared for by someone it had once feared. Knowing that nutrition was vital for the stallion's recovery from malnutrition, Jake began incorporating other healthy foods into their routine beyond apples. Carrots and specially blended grains were added too. Each day spent together transformed into feeding time as they established this new ritual. Every bite taken became a symbol of healing, not just for the body, but also for building trust. Over time, Jake observed changes. The stallion regained some strength and began moving with more energy. With each passing week, it ventured further into Jake's space during feeding times, associating his presence with safety and comfort rather than danger. As their connection grew deeper, Jake took even greater care in monitoring its condition. He also made sure to consult with his vet over the phone regularly about any concerns regarding diet or healing progress. He wanted nothing but the best for this incredible creature. Eventually, there came a day when Jake caught sight of something astonishing. The wild stallion pranced around in playful fury through fields of grass under bright blue skies. The sight filled him with joy and pride. This was not just any horse. It was a testament to resilience and trust, blooming against all odds. What started as an unsteady encounter born from fear had evolved into something remarkable. A journey of healing that would bring life back into this magnificent creature and change Jake's life forever along with it. Each small step taken together echoed louder than mere companionship. They were rewriting what it meant to heal together amidst nature's embrace on that ranch they both called home. With the stallion finally recovering and growing stronger, Jake made the decision to bring him home to the ranch. This marked a new chapter not just for the wild horse, but also for the entire property, as the arrival of this magnificent creature transformed the atmosphere of the ranch. As Jake led the stallion, now named Spirit, into the corral for the first time, his heart raced with excitement. Bella, his trusted mare, stood nearby, her ears perked up in curiosity. The moment felt electric. This was more than just a new horse entering their lives. It was an infusion of energy and potential that would ripple throughout the ranch. At first, the introduction was cautious. Bella approached Spirit with a mix of curiosity and caution, snorting softly as she tried to assess this newcomer. Jake watched intently, eager to see how their interaction would unfold. To his relief, Spirit stood his ground confidently, but didn't react aggressively. He seemed intrigued, yet wary of Bella's attention. Over the next few days, they began to establish their own social dynamics within the corral, sometimes grazing close together, while other times playfully challenging each other. However, the excitement of bringing Spirit home was accompanied by challenges as well. Jake quickly realized that integrating a wild stallion into ranch life required more than just a simple introduction. Spirit was still adjusting to his new surroundings, and every sudden noise, be it a rustle in the bushes or a barking dog, would send him into a frenzy. Jake found himself spending extra time in the corral, working on building Spirit's confidence around everyday ranch sounds and activities. The ranch staff also had mixed feelings about Spirit's arrival. Some were excited about having such a strong and beautiful horse among them, while others were skeptical of whether he could be trained or even trusted. Some of the younger hands on the ranch were eager to help care for him, wanting to learn how to approach him safely and build trust as Jake had done. They marveled at how far Spirit had come since Jake first found him. They could see the strength returning to his body and an undeniable spark in his eyes. Jake took every opportunity to involve everyone in Spirit's care. He encouraged staff members to share their own experiences with horses, fostering teamwork and camaraderie around their new charge. It became a teaching moment not just for Spirit, but for everyone involved. Learning about patience, understanding animal behavior, and respecting boundaries became part of their daily routines. As days turned into weeks, Spirit began adapting to life on the ranch more than Jake could have hoped for. He started participating in daily activities like feeding time alongside Bella, and even joined in on some light exercises that Jake introduced to help him regain full strength. The once wild stallion now thrived on attention and affection, making little nudges with his muzzle as if asking for praise and companionship. However, challenges still arose occasionally. There were times when Spirit would spook unexpectedly, reminding everyone that he was still a creature of the wild at heart. On days like those, Jake made sure to have extra patience. He would calmly guide Spirit through those moments instead of forcing him into situations that triggered anxiety. This approach not only helped Spirit, but also demonstrated to the staff that understanding an animal's fears was essential for true companionship. Through all these changes, both exciting and challenging, Jake found joy in watching Spirit blossom into a remarkable member of their ranch family. The shared laughter from staff learning about horse care echoed throughout the property as everyone worked together to help Spirit settle in fully. With each passing day, life on the ranch felt richer and more vibrant. This wild stallion had not only healed, but it also brought newfound energy and lessons about trust into Jake's life. And they were both still discovering what it meant to share this journey together amid nature's beautiful landscape they called home. As the weeks rolled by, the bond between Jake and Spirit deepened in ways that both astonished and inspired him. Each encounter felt more profound than the last, as if they were both learning from their shared experiences in new ways. For Jake, Spirit was no longer just a wild horse he had rescued. He had become a companion and an integral part of his life. One sunny afternoon, as Jake tended to chores around the barn, he noticed Spirit standing nearby, watching him intently. There was a certain curiosity in the stallion's eyes, echoing the same wonder that Jake felt each time he looked at this magnificent animal. "What do you think, Spirit? Want to help today?" he called out playfully, hoping to invoke some engagement from his friend. To his surprise, Spirit seemed to perk up at the sound of his voice. He took a few cautious steps closer to Jake, and in that moment, Jake felt a rush of warmth. It was as if the stallion understood him, their connection running deep beyond mere physical presence. Jake extended a gentle hand towards Spirit, allowing him to sniff the air curiously. Trust was growing in both directions. Over time, they developed a routine that consisted of performing daily tasks together. Whether it was tending to the cattle or clearing brush from the pastures, Spirit was always eager to accompany Jake. Whenever Jake felt overwhelmed with work, Spirit's presence became an anchor for him, reminding him of their shared journey, which had started from a moment of vulnerability. As they moved together through the ranch, they formed an unspoken agreement of companionship, an understanding that forged a deeper connection between species. On days off from routine chores, Jake would take Spirit out on rides through the open fields. The first time he climbed onto Spirit's back and guided him gently into a trot was magical. It signified not just progress, but mutual trust forged through countless interactions. Jake noticed how the stallion moved beneath him with grace and agility. It was as if they were two halves of a whole finally coming together. Each adventure brought fresh challenges and lessons. One day during a ride, they came across an area where tall grass brushed against wildflowers. a sight so vibrant it took Jake's breath away. They paused to take it in together. As they stood side by side overlooking the beautiful landscape, Jake found himself lost in thought about how much changing flora and fauna mirrored the evolution in both of their lives. Spirit's wild spirit intertwined seamlessly with Jake's sense of responsibility and care. Each experience remained packed with meaning. Those moments where Jake would offer words of encouragement intertwined with laughter as they navigated rocky paths or muddy terrains cemented their friendship further. As summer blossomed around them, they began embracing deeper trust, not only in adventure, but also in vulnerability. There were times when Spirit showed hesitance while encountering loud sounds near the barn. Dogs barking or sudden impacts echoing across the fields. Every time this happened, Jake would remain calm and soothing, sitting beside Spirit patiently until he felt secure again. These moments reminded them both that healing and growth could be complex journeys requiring continued support through uncertainties. In return for these acts of kindness and patience, Spirit continued to shower Jake with affection, nudging him playfully or nickering softly in greeting whenever he approached. Such connections became fuel for both their souls. Each action illustrated their commitment to one another. As their friendship flourished amidst sunlit days and starry nights on the ranch, it became evident that neither could have thrived without the other's partnership and affection. Through every challenge and victory faced together, Jake learned vital lessons from Spirit about resilience and trust. Their journeys mirrored an essential truth: that true companionship goes beyond words. It fits within hearts willing to understand one another. Gradually stepping into newfound roles as allies and equals on this vast ranch transformed both their lives. Through those experiences, they discovered what it truly meant to share their souls on this journey together amid life blooming around them. News of Jake's rescue of Spirit spread quickly through the small ranching community. Neighbors and friends began to stop by to see the stallion that had captured everyone's attention. Reactions varied widely. Some offered their support and admiration, while others expressed skepticism about Jake's decision to intervene in the life of a wild animal. One sunny afternoon, a group of Jake's neighbors gathered at the fence line, peering in at Spirit as he grazed contentedly beside Bella. "I still can't believe you brought that wild stallion home," said Martha, a local rancher who had known Jake since childhood. She crossed her arms and shook her head slightly. "Those wild horses are unpredictable. What if he turns aggressive?" Jake smiled, understanding her concern, but also feeling proud of how far Spirit had come since his arrival. "I hear you, Martha," he replied calmly. "But you should see him now. He's really beginning to trust me. He's not just a wild horse anymore. He's part of our family." Across the fence, Tom, another neighbor with a more adventurous spirit, chimed in with enthusiasm. "I think it's amazing what you've done, Jake. You've turned a near-collapsed horse into a strong companion. It shows that not all wild animals are beyond saving." His eyes sparkled with excitement as he watched Spirit gallop playfully in the corral. Others were intrigued but cautious. The Johnsons, who owned a neighboring ranch, were apprehensive about what bringing in a wild stallion could mean for their own horses. "What if he brings problems?" Mrs. Johnson asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Wild horses can be hard to manage. Are you sure this is worth the risk?" Jake knew that each person had their perspective shaped by experience and concern for safety. He took their words seriously, while also wanting to share the joy he felt daily with Spirit. This wasn't just about rescuing a horse. It was about building a life together filled with hope and companionship. To further reassure his neighbors, Jake invited them to witness some of his training sessions with Spirit. He wanted to demonstrate not only how much progress they had made, but also how careful and respectful he was when working with Spirit's instincts. The following weekend, many gathered at the ranch for an open day where they could see Jake and Spirit interact. As they watched, Jake led Spirit through various exercises designed to build focus and confidence while respecting the stallion's boundaries. There were moments when Spirit would shy away from loud noises or sudden movements, testaments to his wild upbringing. But Jake handled each situation with patience and understanding. Neighbors began to see the bond forming between them. It was heartwarming to watch the once timid stallion respond positively to Jake's gentle commands. As the weeks went on, opinions began to shift within the community. More and more people started to recognize that Spirit wasn't simply an unpredictable wild horse, but rather an emblem of resilience and trust being rebuilt among them all. Children would come by the ranch, giggling as they watched Jake ride Spirit around the fields. Laughter echoed through open spaces, while friendships ignited among young families who had previously remained distant. Among those who were skeptical originally, there was a growing sense of community around this story of redemption. The kind that sparked conversations over dinner tables and during gatherings at local shops about hope, second chances, and bonds formed through compassion. While there would always be challenges associated with having a wild stallion on their ranch, a journey filled with ups and downs, Jake embraced those moments as part of life itself. With each passing day spent alongside Spirit came stories shared among friends and neighbors about overcoming fear and choosing kindness. Ultimately, as time went on, even those who had doubted initially found themselves captivated by the connection between Jake and Spirit. A reminder that sometimes stepping into the unknown could lead not just to personal growth, but also strengthen relationships within an entire community, united through something beautiful: love for animals and respect for life's precious journey. As Jake watched Spirit grow stronger and more confident, he began to contemplate an important decision: training the stallion for riding. It was a thought that filled him with both excitement and apprehension. The prospect of riding Spirit represented the culmination of their bond, but it also brought forth a wave of fears. What if Spirit reacted unpredictably? What if he spooked and caused harm to himself or Jake? Jake knew that training a wild animal demanded a delicate balance of patience and understanding. He had spent countless hours observing Spirit, learning his body language, and recognizing signs of anxiety or discomfort. He understood that Spirit was still adjusting to the world around him. Loud noises, sudden movements, and other animals could easily trigger the instincts rooted deep within. Yet, Jake felt compelled to take this next step for both of their sakes. One evening, after a long day of working on the ranch, Jake found himself sitting on a fence post under the vast sky that stretched above him. He gazed at Spirit as the stallion galloped playfully in the corral, his powerful muscles rippling beneath his coat. The sight filled Jake with hope. He imagined the two of them exploring the open fields together, a partnership forged through trust and mutual respect. "You're ready for this," he whispered softly to himself. In preparation for training, Jake decided to start slow. He gathered supplies such as a saddle and bridle, feeling both eager and nervous at the thought of placing them on Spirit for the first time. He recalled advice from experienced trainers about introducing equipment gradually, allowing animals to become familiar with new objects at their own pace. It was essential for building trust through positive associations. The first day of training arrived with clear skies and warm sunshine casting a golden glow over everything. Jake approached Spirit in the corral with gentle movements, allowing time for him to see the saddle before even touching it. He let Spirit sniff it cautiously while speaking soothingly. "This is just another step forward." he encouraged quietly. At first, Spirit was hesitant. He stepped backward and snorted nervously at the unfamiliar object. Jake's heart raced as he reminded himself to stay calm. This was part of fostering trust. "It's okay, buddy," he said softly. "We can do this together." With each passing moment spent reassuring Spirit, Jake felt their connection deepen further. Days turned into weeks as they continued with short sessions focused on familiarity rather than forcing progress too quickly. After several attempts where Spirit would accept at having the saddle placed gently on his back without protest, Jake felt elated by their achievements together. Even small steps were significant triumphs in their journey. When it came time for Jake to actually ride Spirit, doubt crept back into his mind like shadows during sunset. What if he fell? What if it startled the stallion? But then he remembered all those moments they had shared. The late-night talks under twinkling stars and quiet mornings spent grooming one another. That bond would guide them through whatever lay ahead. With determination coursing through him, Jake mounted gently onto Spirit's back one cool morning after an invigorating sunrise lit up the sky in vibrant colors. His heart pounded wildly in his chest as he took a deep breath. Here they were, two souls united now, ready to embark on this next chapter together. Jake guided Spirit slowly around the corral at first, reinforcing confidence with every soft command spoken from his lips. To his amazement, Spirit responded beautifully, moving gracefully alongside Bella, who trotted nearby, watching intently as they ventured forth into new territory bathed in sunlight. Together they explored trails winding through tall grass and wildflowers blooming along their path. A journey symbolic not just of freedom found among nature, but rather two beings learning how to trust one another more profoundly than ever before. With each passing ride came laughter echoing across open fields, the kind that filled neighborly hearts with joy seeing how far they had come. From rescue to becoming partners, navigating life side by side amidst life's beautiful uncertainties, all while embracing both hopes and fears along this remarkable journey together on that cherished ranch they called home. As Jake continued to train Spirit, the journey was not without its challenges. There were moments of doubt that crept into his mind, weighing heavily on his heart. Each training session brought with it the risk of setbacks, and it was during these times that Jake grappled with his fears. One afternoon, while working on getting Spirit accustomed to the saddle, Jake made an error in judgment. He had gotten a bit too eager, trying to place the saddle on Spirit's back too quickly. Spirit reacted instinctively, letting out a startled snort and bolting away from him. Jake felt a pang of disappointment and frustration. He had moved too fast, breaking the trust they had been building. As he watched Spirit gallop to the far side of the corral, a shadow of doubt settled over him. What if I've ruined everything? He thought. Determined not to give in to despair, Jake took a step back to reassess his approach. He spent the next few days focusing on rebuilding Spirit's trust rather than forcing the training. He returned to the basics, spending time with Spirit in the corral, allowing him to reconnect with his surroundings and with Jake on a less technical level. They wandered through gentle exercises like simple leading and haltering practices, and engaged in light grooming sessions where Jake would soothe Spirit with soft touches and warm words. Gradually, Spirit began to calm down again. It was a slow process, but each moment spent together helped restore the lost ground of their connection. When Jake finally felt ready to try again with the saddle, he approached the task with an abundance of patience. He let Spirit observe the saddle for longer periods, encouraging him to sniff it and explore it at his own pace without any rush. That pivotal moment came when Jake gently placed the saddle on Spirit's back once more. But this time, he took care to move slowly and reassuringly. To his profound relief, Spirit stood still and allowed it without protest. As they progressed through this small victory together, Jake felt a renewed sense of determination welling up within him. However, challenges still arose. During one training session outside in a nearby field, loud thunder erupted overhead, just as Jake attempted to guide Spirit into a simple trot. The sound startled both horse and rider. Spirit jumped sideways in fear, and Jake felt his heart race again as he struggled to maintain control. In that moment, doubt flooded Jake's mind again. Was he really capable of training such a spirited creature? But rather than panicking or forcing Spirit forward despite his fright, Jake took a deep breath and remembered their bond built on trust. He slowed his commands down and spoke soothingly to Spirit. "It's okay, buddy. We can stop for now," he whispered, bringing his energy down to match the nervous Stallion's. Jake guided Spirit back to calmer ground, where they could pause for a moment together. In that stillness amid the rain and thunder, he felt gratitude for their journey thus far. The way Spirit calmed under Jake's gentle approach reminded them both that healing requires time and understanding. Progress became visible during their continued sessions following those obstacles. Slowly but triumphantly, they began moving past hurdles that had once felt insurmountable. Each exercise completed became an opportunity for celebration, like when Spirit finally performed a smooth canter around the corral without hesitation. In those moments, laughter rang out from both Jake and any neighbors watching nearby. Joy throbbed in the air at what they had achieved together. With each setback followed by triumph came stronger bonds. Obstacles became stepping stones rather than walls that could not be climbed over. Through patience and encouragement, both Jake and Spirit discovered resilience not only within each other, but also within themselves. The undeniable truth emerging that true partnership forms through enduring challenges embraced together. Ultimately, each obstacle overcome enriched their relationship further. A testament that such connections aren't merely built, but are shaped through shared experiences woven with empathy and growth along this beautiful journey of companionship on the ranch. One evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jake and Spirit were enjoying a peaceful moment together in the corral. Jake sat on the fence, watching Spirit graze contentedly, and felt a deep sense of gratitude for how far they had come as a team. Just then, dark clouds began to roll in, covering the sky and casting an eerie shadow across the ranch. A storm was approaching faster than Jake anticipated. He could hear the distant rumble of thunder echoing ominously through the valley. Instinctively, he recalled times when storms had spooked Spirit before, and a rush of concern washed over him. "We need to get you inside," Jake said, rising from his seat on the fence. He felt a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. He had worked hard to build Spirit's trust, and he feared that the impending storm might undo their progress. As the first drops of rain began to fall, Jake moved toward Spirit with calm urgency. "Easy now," he said soothingly, while reaching out his hand for Spirit to sniff. However, as thunder boomed overhead, Spirit startled and bolted toward the far end of the corral, eyes wide with fear. It was a moment that tested everything they had built together. Jake's heart raced as he watched Spirit pace nervously. The stallion was not just frightened. He was wild at heart, instinctually reacting to nature's fury around him. Knowing that panic would only make things worse, Jake took a deep breath and reminded himself to remain calm. "You've got this," he whispered softly to Spirit as he slowly approached again, trying not to startle him. The rain began to pour down heavily now. Each drop pattered loudly against the earth and created a cacophony that echoed through the air. Amidst that noise, Jake continued his gentle approach toward Spirit. He understood that this was not just about containing a horse, but about reinforcing their bond. "Just trust me," he said quietly. With patience and repeated efforts to show he meant no harm, Jake finally drew closer until Spirit reluctantly allowed him to touch his neck. In that moment of contact between man and horse amid nature's chaos, they found solace together, a reminder that they were stronger as a team than they ever could be alone. As lightning illuminated the sky briefly, illuminating their surroundings with flashes of light, Jake led Spirit gently back towards the barn. It wasn't an easy task. Every crack of thunder made Spirit jumpy again. But Jake continued speaking soothingly while guiding him forward inch by inch. Suddenly, another loud clap of thunder reverberated through the air, like an explosion nearby. In an instant reaction driven by instinctual fear, Spirit reared back and broke free from Jake's hold. The stallion took off running toward open ground away from safety. Jake's heart sank as panic surged within him once more at witnessing this setback. "Spirit!" Jake called out desperately through the rushing rain while chasing after him instinctively despite knowing it could frighten him further. It was one of those pivotal moments where fear could easily overshadow their journey together or serve as an opportunity for growth. Jake realized too much panic wasn't going to help either of them. Instead of forcing himself into a position of control over Spirit again, a concept that might provoke further fright, Jake stopped running altogether. He took a moment amidst all chaos around them, the wind howling wildly, and allowed himself space versus exerting pressure upon his friend emotionally or physically during such turmoil, spiraling outwards beyond their comfort zone. Standing still in place now felt empowering. Allowing quietness amidst external noise emphasized connection formed between them instead. Grounding both spirits more deeply than before, even during storms brewing outside worlds surrounding them. After several tense moments where breaths quickened without clarity, ahead emerged calmness found within silence shared between two beings, learning how best navigate through uncertainties together, even amidst natural elements beyond human control. Eventually catching up enough distance later, Jake noticed faint signs indicating hesitation growing within Spirit himself. The stallion began slowing down gradually, until he came close enough for Jake's reassuring presence, guiding him toward shelter once more. When they finally reached safety inside barn walls, protected from raging storm outside, both horse and human stood soaked yet relieved beyond measures. In those moments filled with laughter between breaths released softly, a testament forged solidifying bond even stronger than before, they realized they could face fears, hand in hand, ready embrace whatever unfolded next, a long journey awaiting ahead. The day Jake had been waiting for finally arrived, under a bright blue sky that seemed to promise adventure. Friends and family gathered at the ranch, eager to witness the culmination of Jake's hard work with Spirit. The air buzzed with excitement, and the feeling of hope hung thick as everyone anticipated this significant moment. Jake stood in front of Spirit, who was now calm and composed, a stark contrast to the wild stallion he had discovered struggling for survival months ago. With each passing day, their bond had transformed, built through shared challenges, trust, and growth. "This is it, buddy," Jake whispered to Spirit as he gently brushed his hand along the stallion's neck. "Let's show them what we can do together." With the saddle comfortably secured in place and reins held firmly yet gently in his hands, Jake felt a mixture of nervousness and exhilaration coursing through him. This wasn't just a test of Spirit's training. It was also a test of Jake's own development as a rider and partner. He took a deep breath, recalling all their shared experiences, the storms they had weathered together, and the lessons learned along the way. As he swung his leg over Spirit's back and settled onto the saddle, a wave of pride washed over him. The stallion shifted slightly beneath him, but instead of panic, there was an unmistakable sense of understanding in Spirit's movements. Jake remembered all the times they had worked through their fears together, and he felt a surge of confidence. "All right, let's take it slow," Jake encouraged softly as he gently urged Spirit forward. They began to walk around the corral, taking measured steps that served as a reminder of how far they had come together. The crowd watched intently, their eyes wide with anticipation. As they moved, Jake could feel Spirit responding positively, an echo of trust reflected in every step. The familiar sounds of hooves meeting dirt, mixed with the rhythmic heartbeat of both horse and rider, created a symphony of companionship that resonated deeply within Jake's heart. With each stride, he felt more connected to Spirit than ever before. After several laps at a comfortable walk, Jake decided it was time to test Spirit further. He signaled for an easy trot, and to his delight, Spirit complied without hesitation. Laughter erupted from friends and family as they watched the duo move fluidly across the corral, radiating a sense of unity that expressed years of perseverance through hard work. Feeling emboldened by their success, Jake gradually increased their pace. Soon they were trotting seamlessly side by side with Bella nearby, her own tail swishing gracefully behind her as she watched her friends ride. The connection between Jake and Spirit strengthened with each rhythm echoing back from the earth beneath them, a bond cemented by loyalty and mutual respect. But then came a moment that tested them once more. A sudden rustling noise from nearby bushes disrupted their joyful dance. Instantly alert, Spirit tensed beneath Jake. Memories flashed through his mind of earlier days when both horse and rider struggled with fear. Yet this time was different. They had faced challenges together before. "Easy now," Jake whispered calmly, guiding Spirit to slow down while maintaining focus on his breathing and presence. He gently reassured Spirit that he was safe, that they were safe together. Slowly but surely, the stallion relaxed under Jake's guidance, allowing the tension to dissolve into trust once again. As they resumed their trot after the brief distraction, cheers erupted from the crowd. A blend of relief and joy filled the air, as onlookers recognized this moment not just as a ride, but as a celebration of growth for both horse and rider. In that exhilarating moment under the bright sun with supportive family and friends surrounding them, Jake knew he had embarked on a new chapter, not merely about training or rides, but rather about forging an unbreakable bond built on love and understanding. They had faced obstacles head-on. Each hurdle only strengthened their partnership further. Together, they crossed into new territory. Jake realized that what had started as rescuing a wild stallion had evolved into discovering who they truly were alongside one another. Riding Spirit became more than just completing a task. It symbolized their journey towards embracing life together on this beautiful ranch. An adventure infused with lessons learned through empathy and resilience awaiting them beyond every horizon yet to be explored. As Jake sat on the porch, watching Spirit graze peacefully under the fading light of sunset, he felt a wave of reflection wash over him. The journey from rescuing a wild stallion to forging an inseparable bond had changed not only Spirit's life, but also his own in ways he had never anticipated. He could hardly recognize how far they both had come. It seemed like a lifetime ago that he found Spirit weak and frightened near those rocky cliffs. Tonight, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake was filled with gratitude. He thought about the countless moments of learning and growth they had shared. Training sessions filled with laughter and challenges, quiet mornings spent in comfortable silence, and the tumultuous storms that tested their resolve. Each experience taught him more about patience, empathy, and the understanding that relationships require effort from both sides. In witnessing Spirit transform from a wary creature into a confident partner, Jake learned powerful lessons about trust. He recalled the fear and doubt he felt when first deciding to train Spirit to ride. Even now, he could still feel remnants of anxiety creeping into his heart at times, wondering if he would make mistakes or whether Spirit might reject him again. But with every challenge they faced together came breakthroughs that reinforced their connection. The way Spirit responded to Jake's words of encouragement showed not just progress, but also deepened trust. Moment by moment, day by day, they had forged a bond built on shared experiences. The kind of loyalty that eclipsed normal relationships between horse and rider. Jake's reflections led him to consider the ripple effect their journey had created within the community as well. Friends and neighbors who once doubted his decision to rescue Spirit were now inspired by their partnership. They witnessed firsthand how love and understanding could transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth. Through Jake's commitment to nurturing Spirit's development, many local families began reevaluating their perspectives on trust, both in animals and each other. Their relationship wasn't just confined to interactive training, it extended outwards into moments where people rallied around them during community events, showcasing what true friendship means across species lines. Young children often flocked to watch Jake ride Spirit through grassy fields filled with joy and laughter echoing behind him. A sight that transformed skepticism into admiration among those observers who once hesitated in offering support. Jake realized this journey transcended controlling a stallion or completing a simple task. It symbolized personal growth that radiated warmth within himself as well as his understanding of others outside their realm. The ranch became not just home, but also a space where inner lessons blossomed alongside every wildflower bursting through. Verdant grasses under bright skies experienced together thereafter. With each challenge met head-on emerged new friendships within this tight-knit community. All intertwined through compassion, rooted deep down. Even amidst uncertainties faced along paths chosen around running hooves, kicking up dust underneath rising suns, reflecting brightly above them as days unfolded toward future adventures still waiting ahead. As darkness settled over the landscape like a gentle embrace wrapping around all present, Jake felt immense contentment zipping around freely throughout him, knowing without reservation that every ounce put forth toward nurturing this bond would illuminate every day forward. From distant horizons yet unseen shining bright with possibilities abounding before them. Adventures awaiting steeped, richly grounded, always somewhere along familiar trails traveled beside these magnificent beings shared between humans equitably long past gestures.